His name is Shi Tao, former journalist for the Contemporary Business News in Changsha City, Hunan Province, yet another reporter in China who was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. But this time was different. In April 2004, Shi Tao was attending an internal meeting at work. His upper management verbally informed everyone of a publication just received from the Office of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party. It was essentially a directive on how they should go about reporting the upcoming 15th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Shi Tao made notes in the meeting and then sent an email through his Yahoo account to a friend at a web magazine called Democracy Newsletter. His intent? He simply wanted to warn overseas democratic movement activists not to go back to China around that time to prevent their arrests. 7 days later, Shi Tao himself was arrested. April 27, 2005, Shi Tao was sentenced to 10 years in prison for illegally leaking state secrets abroad. Unfortunately, this was a typical sentence in a typical case. Like many intellectuals who had been given criminal sentences because of what they said, Shi Tao, 37 years old, may have more or less been mentally prepared for this outcome. However, little could this journalist have imagined that one of the hands that had thrown him into prison was a company that he had relied on for years in his efforts to create political change, the US headquartered technology company, Yahoo. So what exactly were the circumstances surrounding his arrest? And just what part do companies like Yahoo play in China's efforts in maintaining a tight control over the dictatorship?
The indictment from the Intermediate People's Court of Changsha City in Hunan Province cited in detail a report from Yahoo Hong Kong. Yahoo Hong Kong provided China with its users' data showing that the user had a web address designated as 218.76.8.201 and used his Yahoo email account during the time of 23/32/17 on April 20th, 2004. Further, that he had accessed the internet through a phone number 0731-437-6362. The report from Yahoo became key evidence for Shi Tao's conviction. Tuesday, October 18, 2005, members of the Hong Kong Democratic Party stood in front of Yahoo's Hong Kong office to protest against Yahoo for disclosing Shi Tao's email account information, resulting in his 10-year imprisonment. Shi Tao's case caused a fairly big stir in the international community. In September 2005, when Shi Tao was doing heavy labor in Hunan Province's Chisan prison, Yahoo's chief, Jerry Yang, who came to attend a conference in Hangzhou City, China, commented for the first time beside the picturesque West Lakes regarding Shi Tao's case.
I didn't want to see the incident ending like this. We must, however, obey China's laws.
On November 1, 2005, a Hong Kong Information Technology and Broadcasting panel held a special hearing regarding the incident of Yahoo Hong Kong providing Shi Tao's personal information to a mainland China police department. During the hearing, Yahoo presented a statement claiming what it had provided is not Shi Tao's personal information, as the computer Shi Tao had used belongs to his employer, the newspaper. The IP was the company's, but the Legislative Council members who attended the hearing questioned this argument.
The evidence has shown that Shi Tao was arrested because of this information. So isn't this the best proof?
If you say, when you provided the address and the phone number of his office without mentioning his name, these did not constitute his personal information. Even as you, Mr. Chen, just said, when you gave out the personal ID number, you said that it was not personal data. Because an ordinary person cannot know your name according to your personal ID number. If you define personal data this way, this ordinance is the same as garbage.
Based on Yahoo's definition of personal data, Yahoo could indeed provide its users non-personal data to the Chinese Communist Party without a sense of guilt, while the Chinese Communist Party can also easily use this kind of information to ferret out any individual it does not like. It is perhaps a coincidence that after Shi Tao's incident, Yahoo made a big breakthrough in the Chinese market. In August 2005, several months after Yahoo provided Shi Tao's email information to the Chinese Communist Party, Yahoo bought 40% of the biggest Chinese commercial trading website, Alibaba.com in a $1 billion deal.
To be able to compete and be successful in what we believe will be the world's largest internet market in just 5 years.
Which is said to be the biggest investment a foreign company has made in the Chinese internet market. As a matter of fact, as early as 2002, Yahoo has already become a signatory to the Chinese Communist Party's public pledge on self-censoring of the Chinese internet industry. It is more worrisome that Google and Microsoft's MSN are also doing the same thing. When Yutong Dynasty television reporters interviewed Shi Anwei, director of the Microsoft Research Asia Advanced Technology Center in Shanghai, he was asked about his view on MSN's filtering internet information in China. Here's what he said.
So, the interesting thing is, I think the interesting question, would be whether or not that's unique in a Microsoft case, or this is actually a generic issue for all internet providers. Okay, so whether or not Google had the same issue, whether or not Yahoo have the same issue, whether or not other companies have the same issue. So my gut feel is it will be a very generic situation.
He did not say it wrong. In China, they are doing the same thing.
Back in the 1990s, a few areas of American enterprise in China carried as much moral glamour as the internet did. Every technical advance and every market restriction lifted were perceived not only as business opportunities for American information technology companies, but they were seen as potential advances for Chinese democracy. The Chinese leadership and the Communist Party, however, had different objectives.
Just as the author of Losing the New China, Ethan Gutman, said, the large volume of information over the internet and the convenient internet-based communication tools have given many people new hope for the free exchange of information and for the rise of democracy in China. In 1998, there were 5 million internet users in China. Today, there are as many as 98 million. If these 98 million internet users could freely surf the internet as they desired, there is no doubt that independent new thoughts would be introduced, and China would thus speed up its process of change. Unfortunately, the Chinese Communist Party had also realized this and had made plans from the very beginning.
With the explosive development of the internet, they acknowledge that there are close to 100 million internet users in China. If this hole were not filled, the Communist Party's tight grip on China would be severely jeopardized. There are two aspects to controlling people. One is the use of force, and the other is by controlling people's minds.
So the Chinese Communist Party was faced with a dilemma. On the one hand, they couldn't stop the development of the internet in China. Legitimacy of their rule in the information age of the 21st century required this. On the other hand, to keep its monopoly over power, the party had to make sure that its internet control measures always stayed ahead of the development of the internet itself.
Say 3 or 4 years ago, working from my office in a Chinese TV studio, I received an email from a U.S. friend using a browser-based Hotmail account. And the words in the email, certain words such as China, unrest, labor, and Xinjiang were in weird halftone brackets as if the words had been picked out by some sort of filter.
In the beginning, the Communist Party's internet blockage strategy was to manually maintain a website blacklist to make sure that it was impossible for the internet users in China to directly access any website on that list.
在2000年之前，很多一些网站的封锁。
Before 2000, website blockage was done manually. For example, on July 20th, 1999, the Chinese Communist Party started to persecute Falun Gong, and a Falun Gong practitioner found that he could not access Falun Gong's Minghui website. Within days, several Minghui mirror websites were set up. These websites carried the exact same contents as the original Minghui website, but were accessed through different web addresses. Access to these mirror sites from within China was blocked several days later. Obviously, the internet blockage was being done manually. At that time, people could still visit Minghui using the proxies outside China.
Allowing blockage of the internet to take days, of course, did not meet the CCP's requirement of instant information blockage. Just then, the CCP leaders discovered an American company, Cisco.
通过 Cisco 的公司的
At that time, around 2000, Cisco had developed a more advanced firewall system. By the end of 2000, using proxies to access banned websites did not work anymore. That is, if you used a proxy to visit the Minghui website, the proxy would stop working almost immediately. This indicated that internet blocking technology had been upgraded, as visits to the banned websites could be detected automatically.
Cisco is using the filters and firewalls it makes to monitor the websites that each internet user in China is visiting. As soon as a website is found to contain any prohibited words, the internet visit is interrupted and the web address is added to the blacklist.
I talked to a Cisco representative and a manager at Cisco's Beijing headquarters, and he told me, "We don't care about the Chinese government rules. It's none of Cisco's business." However, it is part of Cisco's business because 3/4 of China's routers, even today, are Cisco-made.
Of course, by just using Cisco's filters alone, the goal of internet blockage cannot be achieved.
It can be said that China's internet monitoring is the most comprehensive in the world. First, it possesses the most advanced internet monitoring technology. Second, it can rely on the self-censoring of the internet business owners.
Under pressure from the Chinese Communist Party, in order to enter China's market, Yahoo, Google, MSN, along with other internet portals and search engine companies, have cooperated with many of the demands by the Communist Party. From scanning chat rooms, bulletin boards and blogs, monitoring keywords used for web searches, and even checking users' email contents, and in some cases, eliminating all Communist Party disliked topics and discussions from their servers. After Yahoo, Cisco, and other large US companies came together to monitor and block China's internet, creating the Great Internet Firewall of China, the journalist Shi Tao was not the only victim.
Outside China, Epoch Times is the independent newspaper in the Chinese language. The individuals in China who volunteered to collect information and work as reporters for Epoch Times were eventually arrested. The so-called direct evidence used to justify their arrests were all obtained after the Chinese Communist regime illegally broke into their personal email accounts and then used the contents of their emails as evidence in court, which led to their long jail terms.
6 years ago, the National Security Ministry arrested Mr. Sang Yonghai when he returned to China. He was shocked when the National Security Ministry placed in front of him all the emails he had exchanged with his friends. They said, "We have kept track of all of your activities."
Without the support of high-tech companies outside China, without their political cooperation and their acknowledgement of this illegal encroachment on the Chinese people's human rights and privacy, the Chinese police would have no way of doing such a thing.
Among those who were arrested because of their use of the internet, probably most of them are Falun Gong practitioners.
According to our records, from 1999 to April 2004, 108 Falun Gong practitioners were arrested, detained, or sentenced to forced labor camps for browsing the internet. Among them, 3 Falun Gong practitioners died from torture and maltreatment. This is only a small portion of actual cases.
So this is really, nobody has done it as well as China, as putting together an internet where literally you're watched. And, you can, anybody who's, say, a Falun Gong, and say somebody who's Falun Gong in China who's trying to communicate by, email and using any computer techniques there, knows this, that they're immediately heading out. It's like some kind of,
carrying a big sign on their head saying, "I'm Falun Gong, come get me," right?
Something, and then suddenly you've got these worms jumping after you and screwing up your computer.
It is distressing to see this happen. When we feel indignant that these arrests were made because of American companies' involvement and feel upset because monetary profits made them abandon their principles, we cannot help but to think of America's founding principles. We thought of the free spirit deeply rooted in the hearts of Americans and of the heroes who once upon a time existed on the internet and who now have fallen. Perhaps they themselves didn't expect to change this rapidly. Google is a good example. In 2002, prior to its entry to China, Google was once blocked by the Chinese Communist regime for not filtering search results. At that time, Google did not compromise, rather it insisted on its principle, do no evil, even in the face of pressure. But now, while Google's popularity is much higher than before, and the party no longer blocks Google, Google voluntarily filters search results on its Chinese news network and does not display any Communist Party disliked content on its web search result pages, which service Chinese internet users. On September 16, 2004, American company Dynaweb released some information that raised the media's awareness. According to internet users in mainland China, the newly opened Google Chinese News filtered its contents inside the mainland so that internet users inside and outside China obtained different results when using the same keywords for internet searches. Dynaweb confirmed this by simulating this environment of the internet in mainland China. Using the name of expatriate writer Jiang Ping Chao as a keyword, these are the search results obtained by internet users in the U.S. And these are the results obtained by simulating the internet environment in mainland China.
I don't feel too odd when mainland China media have been blocking information about me. But now it is Google, a company which once declared to the whole world, do no evil. Applying this principle to my issue, it should be, I won't block related information and won't block others' right to acknowledge.
But this is not the end of the story. On January 25, 2006, many international media reported that Google voluntarily blocks politically sensitive terms to comply with the so-called Chinese Communist regime's policy on their new China search site, google.cn.
Andrew McLaughlin, Google's senior policy counsel, said in a statement, "In order to operate from China, we have removed some content from the search results available on google.cn in response to local law, regulation, or policy."
This news triggered a heated discussion on the internet. Within 10 hours after BBC Online News posted this news, over 500 comments were posted following up on it. However, Google's Andrew McLaughlin said,
"While removing search results is inconsistent with Google's mission, providing no information, or a heavily degraded user experience that amounts to no information, is more inconsistent with our mission."
I think the statement is ridiculous. I think even they don't believe that statement. That's just an excuse. Chinese people have access to the information which Chinese Communist Party regime approved. They have access to all kinds of information they approved, like TV, newspaper, and radio, internet. China even has its own search engine, a pretty successful search engine, supported by Chinese Communist Party regime called Baidu.com. Now, Google.cn is almost provide exactly the same information at Baidu.com. So what's the point for Google going into China, provided the same information Chinese people already have access? The only reason for them to establish this Google.cn, the Chinese-based search engine, is for their market. They want go to China, establish over there, knock down Baidu.com, occupy that market. Nothing else.
Reporters Without Borders, a leading international media watchdog, says Google's launch of a new self-censored search engine in China is a black day for freedom of expression.
Do they care?
Of course they care. Everybody cares. I mean, there's no question. I mean, people even who are there and love China are convinced that no matter what, that this is the right direction, that we should be pushing investment in as quickly as possible, that is the magic bullet that will change China. Of course they care. Most of them do. There's a few people who are out there just to make money, but most of them are not. There's an idealism that's resident throughout that community.
Perhaps what Ethan Gutman said may well represent the state of mind of many of the top American business leaders. However, Despite the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has opened up to the outside world during the last 20 years in some ways, there is still no evidence of political reform. Chinese people clearly still do not have freedom of thought. But the theory that fostering China's economic development will promote reform and bring democracy to China still seems to be believed by many Western companies.
Everyone knows, America knows, and Chinese people know that capitalism does not represent democracy. For example, Saudi Arabia is a capitalist country. Hitler's fascist Germany was also a capitalist country. But were they democracies?
But my point is that the current trends are not in that direction at all. The current trends are not supporting the theory. Now, that doesn't mean the theory is wrong. It doesn't mean the theory, maybe I'm just being too impatient. I'm sure that's exactly what my old friends at the Chinese China Business Council would say. They'd say, you know, the government's such an impatient fool. He should know better. It takes long term. You have to show patience. Just societies change very slowly. People have to get money in their pockets before they can think about anything else, right? However, I would have to say, you're blinding yourselves. These are the current trends. And as a matter of fact, they haven't changed since I left China. In fact, they've deepened to a great extent.
Today, Falun Gong is still persecuted in China. Today, Roman Catholicism is illegal in China. Today, one can be imprisoned for publishing an article on the internet in China. Then why would some people claim they would be able to help the Communist Party improve by doing business with it? All their reasoning sounds phony and unrealistic to me. I don't think they can justify it at all.
In 1998, the Chinese Communist regime had an even grander objective. It was no longer satisfied with just controlling the internet, so it set up an unprecedented project called Golden Shield, which was capable of monitoring all means of communication. Naturally, the Golden Shield project has attracted many Western companies, including from the US. In the next episode, we look into Project Golden Shield and just how American companies and the like see this project as a means to gaining preferential treatment and huge profits. Zooming in, this is Kian Wong. See you next time.